Oh, hi, Lucy. Wow, you got mute on.
Hi, Michelle.
Wow, it looks like we've already got quite a few other people on board. So can I ask Claire and Tracy and Angie and Natalia, I'm not sure how many others there are, if you could just turn off your microphone, which looks like you've got off for a bit, while we just do a little bit of a practice run with the people who are going to be running the session. So thank you. This is my first time, feeling slightly anxious. I'm just going to, and I can't see how many people exactly are. Each time somebody comes in, it looks like there's going to be a little dinging sound. So Lucy, I'm just going to do a test run and share my screen. Share, oops, and okay, can you just give me a sign, Lucy, if you can see my screen?
I can definitely see your screen, Michelle.
And you can hear me, perfect, very good.
Yes, very clear.
So that's great, all right. So I can probably just leave that on since that's the welcome slide. And you won't need to share your screen, but I think I will click stop share when my turn comes and Andrew can, and Sharon can put their slides on. So that looks all right.
Join the meeting.
And what I just need to find though is the chat. So
Michelle, can you hear me?
yes, I can. Hi, Andrew. For those people who are joining now but are not part of the presenters, if you can just hold on for a moment while we just make sure we've got everything sorted, and I will ask you to turn off both your microphones and your screen, please.
Michelle?
Yes?
You'll find the chat under participants in the top right-hand corner. It's like a bubble, and if you click it, you'll see all the participants, and at the bottom there's a chat button.
Yeah, I think I have to, I don't know if I can do it while I'm sharing my screen. That might be.
Oh, okay.
But I
think
I've definitely got chat down the bottom when I'm not sharing my screen. But Melinda will probably be on board soon and she will be able to tell me, no doubt.
Michelle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, Melinda.
Hello. On your, when you are sharing your screen, it should be right at the very top. There's usually a little section that has like a small bit of menus, and there is a chat thing there.
Oh, it's come back now.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yes.
So it's usually right up the top, and it is a little bit hard sometimes to see the chat coming through, but it sits right up the top.
Okay, and that's just advanced, so I don't want that. I'm just
So Michelle,
yes.
Are you going to share my slides?
I think it will be best if you share your slides, Andrew, and advance them. I'll just ask everybody to join. It's great to see so many people joining. If you could mute. Appearance. So you should find the mute button, that's better, mute button at the bottom of the screen. We're just doing a test run with the presenters, and we will be with you shortly. Okay. Just oh, there we go. Yeah, so Andrew, down the bottom, you should have a share screen option. So I'll stop sharing and you will pick yours. Can you see that okay?
Oh, yes, I was going to say, Jess O'Reilly from Sucker.
Michelle, I can see it. I can't share while someone else is sharing.
No, that's probably right. Yep, that's fine. Okay. So, hello everybody. We're just waiting for more people. Well, we're just waiting for the start time, and we're just doing a little bit of a test with the people who are doing the presenting. Very excited by the enthusiasm of everybody joining in advance. But I will ask you all to mute your microphone.
Michelle, it's Sharon. I haven't muted mine yet.
Hi, Sharon. I think when I stop sharing my screen, you'll be able to share your screen, and you'll do that after Andrew.
Okay, so once Andrew's finished, then I just press that share button. Is that correct?
Yes, Andrew will press stop share at the top, and you can do share, and it should work. I've got all of the slides as a backup in case we need them. You're quite soft, Sharon, so you might need to be slightly louder.
Okay, I'll just try to put my earphones on.
And a little bit fuzzy.
I can take it off and use my laptop if that's easier.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to hear you at the moment. Turn that down. Melinda, I'm just going to need to make you a I'm just trying to work out how to make you a co-host. But I think I need to get out of this screen. Unless it's invite. No. I'd say, I'm not sure if other people are finding they've got a list of the people who are attending sitting over the slideshow. Andrew, I can see you. Do you have that?
I've got 3 people there, that's all.
Yeah, okay. Oh, I can just move it over to the side. That's okay. So welcome everybody who's joining. If I can ask you to probably turn your video off and also ensure you're on mute, please. And we'll be getting started in about 6 or 7 minutes.
Michelle, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sharon. Just say a few more words.
I'm getting quite a big dinging noise every now and again. Is that me or is that?
No, there's a lot of dinging going on when people are joining.
Oh, okay, that's probably what it is.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm not sure how to silence that. I can see one chat. What does that mean? So somebody's just asking, Jess is asking if she should be able to hear. Yes, at the bottom of the screen, there is a microphone.
Excuse me, Michelle, for some people it might be at the top of their screen depending on what device they're using.
Yes. Melinda, the microphone means you can talk, but what needs to happen for people to hear? Could you answer that?
So they just need to make sure they've joined the audio. So people can join audio in two ways. So you can join the audio through your computer. So there's a button down the bottom on the left that says, well, on my screen, it's on the left, it says join audio, or you can join by dialing on the telephone, which it will provide you the Australian number that you need to ring and the meeting ID. So I'm currently joined in by the telephone, but a lot of people can use their computer audio. So everyone should actually be able to hear you if they join the audio.
Okay, so I've just replied to Jess, that hopefully that will help her. So Jess has found the chat box, which means you can send a message if you've got any problems, hopefully. So we're at 54 people. We have a moment of excitement as we approach 100 because we're hoping that that's all going to go well when we take everybody who's registered. So, see people are still joining, so hopefully everyone can hear. Okay. Okay. For those people who've just joined, just a reminder to, I think, turn off your video, please. You should still be able to see the slides, but it means we won't be able to see you, which is a little bit distracting. And also turn off your audio so that we don't get any background noise. We'll only have the speakers who have their audio on. So, just oh, that's nice. Okay. So we are approaching 1 o'clock South Australian time, so we will try to start fairly much on time. I imagine that there will be some people who will join us a little bit late, but we'll just give another minute or two and then we'll get started. So a few more people have joined. I'll just reiterate, if you can perhaps turn off your video, which might be down the bottom or the top of your screen, and click your video, and also just ensure you're on mute so we don't get any interference. I seem to have lost my list of how many have joined. I've got people joining down the side of my screen, but I just can't quite see a number now.
67, Michelle.
Sorry, Melinda?
Oh, 68. 68.
Well, about another minute, I think, and then we'll get started. Okay. All right, I think we might start, and no doubt people will continue to join us, but we've set aside an hour, and I think it's worth getting going. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Health Promotion Practitioner Registration webinar put on by the Australian Health Promotion Association. We're really pleased to be having this webinar today to talk about the ins and outs of becoming a registered health promotion practitioner. This is put on by AHPA. AHPA is very committed to building and supporting the health promotion workforce in Australia, and registration of practitioners is a really key initiative for us, one we're very proud of. It's still fairly early days, and we're hoping to encourage more and more people to apply for registration. I would just note that we are using Zoom. This is something fairly new for us. We hope, no doubt many of you are quite experienced with this, but if I can just remind you to mute your microphone throughout, aside from the presenters, obviously, and the bottom or possibly the top of your screen, you'll find the controls, and also turn off your video. I think most people are doing that. That will also be at the bottom or possibly the top of the screen. If you have any questions, you can use the chat button in the same area to type in any questions, and there's a question and answer section at the end, but so we hope that will work. I'd like to first of all acknowledge and pay respect to the First Nations of Australia as the original and continuing cultures of this continent. We will commit to work in a culturally secure and respectful manner at all times throughout the course of our engagements. We'll seek out the most appropriate way to be fully inclusive, informed and supportive when addressing issues of the Australian First Nations people with our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander members. We've got a very positive, interesting agenda, I hope, for you today. What I should have first said is that I'm Michelle Herriot. I'm the acting president of the Australian Health Promotion Association. Andrew Jones-Roberts, who is the chair of the National Accreditation Organisation, will come up next and give you an overview of the process of registering to become a health promotion practitioner and the registration process and setup. And then we'd like to we have two people who are very involved in the National Accreditation Organisation process, and both of whom have successfully been registered. Associate Professor Sharon Burns from WA and Lucy Wickham from Victoria, who will present information on their experience and associated issues. And at the end of the session, we'll have a question and answer section. again, just to remind you, please turn off your video as you're joining us, and then also put your computer or system on mute, and so you'll be able to type in any questions. So let's get started. I'm going to stop sharing my video and invite Andrew to share his video.
Okay. Is everyone seeing the slide, Health Promotion Practitioner Registration? I hope so. I won't expect you all to answer. Thank you everyone for coming along, and it's great to have so much interest in the program. I am going to talk about how we've set the system up and what the system means for Australia now, and also give you a high-level overview of what it will require to become a registered health promotion practitioner. So some context first. So we're part of the National Union for Health Promotion and Education Health Promotion Accreditation System. That's the system that AHPA has applied to become a part of, and we are now the National Accreditation Organisation for Australia. The system has two components, and AHPA is now responsible for registering individual health promotion practitioners across this catchment, i.e. Australia. There are other NAOs in other countries. The IUHP Global Accreditation Organisation is continuing to be the decision-making body for university course accreditation. And there are currently 8 university courses that are accredited in Australia, 5 courses that are conducted by Curtin University, 1 by Edith Cowden University, and 2 by the University of the Sunshine Coast. In order for AHPA to become the National Accreditation Organisation, we committed to establishing a governance structure for the NAO. The overarching responsible for the NAO, because this is now a program implemented by AHPA, the overarching responsibility is with the Board of Directors. And then, as Michelle mentioned, we have an NAO Management Committee. Then we have subcommittees. We've got a committee looking after the assessment of practitioners, another committee looking after any appeals or complaints that we might receive, a continuing professional development committee, and the promotion and marketing of this program is part of what the AHPA Membership and Communications Committee now provides. So applying for registration, at the moment, anyone can apply, and that's going to be the case until 2021. And what that means is people, by anyone, I'm talking about people who've got a qualification or don't have a qualification. What matters until 2021 is that people can demonstrate that they meet the competencies. Now, the competencies have been described by IUHPE, and we're pretty excited about the fact that these competencies are based on very important work that was done here in Australia and became what AHPA called the core competencies for health promotion practitioners. That was done in the early 2000s. IUHP then built on those competencies and created domains of practice and these new core competencies for health promotion practitioners. And so it is something that is built on great work that was done here in Australia, and now it's being applied internationally as an approach to registering health promotion practitioners. When people want to apply, they need to get onto the AHPA website, and there is a page there for practitioner registration. And in order to submit their application, they need to pay a fee of $38.50. Once they've completed their application and submitted it into the system. It's an online application system which people complete. Then our assessment committee reviews that all of the documentation, and there's an opportunity to attach documents as evidence and complete a self-assessment form. And then those people anyone who's submitted an application gets assessed by 2 members of our assessment subcommittee. If their application's approved, they then pay their fee, and it's $44 per year to register as a member, or $313.50 to register as a non-member per year. Once people have paid their fee, they are then entitled to use the professional title IUHP Registered Health Promotion Practitioner. We also encourage people to use the logo, the joint logo that we were very pleased that IUHP agreed to us creating, which is at the bottom of your screen, the IUHP and Australian Health Promotion Association Registered Health Promotion Practitioner logo, joint logo, and many people who are becoming registered are using that on the bottom of their email signature. The registration, once approved, is for 3 years. Now, at the end of 3 years, it's not a case of needing to go through an application process again. Once people have been approved as a registered health promotion practitioner, to re-register, people need to demonstrate that they've done 75 hours of continuing professional development. And we've got a log that people can use to monitor the kinds of professional development they're doing and ensure that they meet the criteria for re-registration. So pathways to registration. As I mentioned, at the moment, there are 3 pathways. If people have completed a course at a date after that course became accredited, then they just need to prove that they've graduated from the course and pay their registration fee. If people are graduates of other courses related to health promotion, they do a self-assessment of competence. They provide evidence that within the past 5 years, here is evidence. I've got 2 years experience against the different domains of practice. And they provide 2 references. Until 2021, there's a window where people who don't have a health promotion qualification can apply to become registered. Once again, they do self-assessment of competence. This time they need to provide 3 years experience within the past 5 years of how they can address those competencies, and then they provide 2 references. We're delighted with the interest in the program. Thank you very much again for coming along to hear about this process, and I'm sure that by accessing information both on the Australian Health Promotion Association website or on the IUHPE website, it's very easy to find the information about the standards and the process that's been used to develop this international program. But we think that this is going to be a significant advance in the practice of health promotion in Australia. We've been establishing this program over probably over the last 5 to 10 years with the objective of ensuring the quality and credibility of the Australian health promotion workforce. And by joining this program, you'll be assisting us to do that. We believe it's going to help health promotion practitioners have greater recognition and prestige and credibility for their important role practicing health promotion. It'll also mean when people are moving employment, it'll be easier for their potential employers to understand their competencies, and I think it will contribute to people gaining employment. This specialist label is essential for people to understand what's going on in the international movement for health promotion practitioners, and so people can use the title RHPE on the end of their signature, meaning registered health promotion practitioner. People will also be included on an Australian registered health promotion practitioner register on the AHPA website, and already we're seeing the 21 people who've become registered health promotion practitioners. They are on the AHPA Health Promotion Accreditation System Global Register, and we're very proud that already Australia's got, not that anyone's competitive of course, but Australia's got more health promotion practitioners than any other country and more university courses. So once again, we're delighted that Australia's leading the way in health promotion practice. Employers, I think it'll become obvious to employers that when they're looking to understand who satisfies their employment criteria, especially desirable criteria, we believe it'll become a standard within position descriptions that people will have as desirable, that people are eligible to become a registered health promotion practitioner. We're not wanting to cross any boundaries with restraint of trade, so we understand that people will still be able to apply for jobs if they're not a registered health promotion practitioner. That's why we're encouraging employers to put it as a desirable character, a desirable criteria that people can be eligible to be a registered health promotion practitioner. This, we believe, will become a minimum qualification that people are fit to practice as a registered health promotion practitioner. It'll contribute to workforce and career pathways, quality assurance, and as I've said, it's not mandatory, but we're encouraging employers to include this status. So I've mentioned the AHPA website, and please don't hesitate to get on the website. Don't hesitate to send an email if you've got questions. You can email the National Accreditation Organisation via the email address nao@healthpromotion.org.au. We've got a great team of people working on this program from around the country. The various committees are comprised of people representing all of the states and territories, and over 30 people are involved in making sure that this NAO is successful here in Australia. So we're delighted with how it's going. We're very proud of all of the work that all of the subcommittees are doing, making this something that's part of the Australian landscape for health promotion. So I'll hand back to Michelle. And Michelle, I will now press stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So there's Andrew. You can see him on the screen. We're going to invite Sharon Burns to join us now. Associate Professor Sharon Burns from Curtin University. So Sharon, if you would like to share your screen, and that's looking like that's coming on. If I can just remind everybody to please mute yourselves. It does provide quite a lot of background noise if you're not muted. So I'd like to hand over now to Sharon to give the viewpoint of somebody who's been through the process. Thanks, Sharon.
That's great. Thanks, Michelle. I hope you can see my slides. It's all good. Okay. So I've been asked to present from an academic's perspective on applying for the registrations and just talk about some of the things that you could think about when you're applying and why it's important. And Andrew has summarised the background for registration really nicely and provided us with some really good insights into how the system works and why it is important. And I'd just like to reiterate that it is really important that we register and that we have a workforce that's registered. And he mentioned not that we're competitive. I think we probably are a little bit competitive in Australia, and it would be really nice if we continue to show the rest of the world that we've got a lot of courses that are accredited and also a lot of people that are accredited. And coming from the university, not that we're competitive, coming from the university with the most courses, I've run a little session with our staff to encourage them to all become accredited, because for those of you who are sitting out there in universities, I think it's actually really important that we as lecturers are also accredited when we've got students coming out with accreditation. But also for people out in practice, really important thing to have your registration, and to make sure that that's acknowledged and that you put that on your signature and really highlight that to your employers. So a few tips for your application. So Andrew's mentioned that you go to the website and there's an icon that you can click and go in to start registering. It's important to read through all the documents that AHPA have put up on that site, because there's some really useful documents. So there's a nice little guidelines document that, and also some sample application templates. Have a look through those. Don't be daunted by all of the different things that you need to address. I think when I started doing my application, I probably overthought it and spent a lot of time gathering information and thinking about what I was going to put in each of those criteria, which is fine. But most people who are working in the profession will have plenty of examples to be able to put down and to demonstrate each of the criteria. So there's a number of different things that we need to address. We need to address knowledge to start with, and there's a whole range of knowledge questions. And I'll just show you an example of one that I had done with my application to start with. But you need to indicate how you've achieved each knowledge criteria. And that can be through study, it can be through professional development, or it can be through work experience, or it might be through a combination. So draw back on your study. So your study may not have been in health promotion, but you might have some really good examples through community development, through education, through allied health that you can draw on. Also the professional development that you've done while you've been in your health promotion role. And most of us will have done some sort of professional development that might have contributed to enhancing our health promotion knowledge. And also through our work experience. So there's lots of different things that we do in our day-to-day life that we can draw on when we're looking at each of those knowledge criteria. But my most important tip is to familiarise yourself with the document. So go onto the website, have a look at all the different criteria that you need to address, and think about how you may personally address each of those criteria. So then the main section is addressing the core competencies. So there's 9 different core competencies, which are pretty typical to what we would expect if we were looking at health promotion practitioners. And as Andrew mentioned, this work has been in progress for quite a long time. And the work that was done in the 2000s in Australia through AHPA has actually informed the IUPHE core competencies. So in Australia, we're actually in a really good place, because I think we've been doing this sort of work in health promotion for a long time. And those people that are sitting out there that have been working for, 3 to 30 years in health promotion will be able to address all of these criteria. Have a look at the document. In the document, probably the easiest thing to do is to look at for each competency, have a look at the little dot points. So for each competency, there's about 1 to 5 little dot points that talk about what actually makes up. So what does it mean to enable change? So we might be working collaboratively across sectors to influence the development of public policies. We might be using health promotion approaches, which support empowerment. There's a range of different things. You don't need to specifically address each of those, but they will give you an idea of the types of things that we're looking for. The sample application will also give you an idea of the sort of things that you might be able to use to address those. I've only got 200 words to address each of those competencies. So you don't need to write a thesis on it. It's just pulling out the key points. There is also a comment section. And when I filled in my application, I used that comment section to provide a little bit more information. So given 200 words is fairly tight, and as academics we do struggle a little bit because we like to write a lot and say a lot. So I found the 200 words quite tight. What I did was use quite a lot of acronyms and then just pop the acronyms down in the comments. I also used web links and those types of things to show that I had met those competencies. So if I had links to web pages that I was a part of, I was making those links, or if I had publications or reports, all of those sorts of things, I just put down in the comments section. You can also upload documents. So if you want to have other documents that are supporting what you're doing, you can upload all of those documents in the end. In the end, you need to be able to prove that you've been involved. But that might be just through including some minutes. You also have a referee that will vouch for what you've done. So if when the reviewer's reading through it, they're not too sure if they can see that you've actually done that work or been involved in that work, then they can contact the referee. But in most cases, people have provided, the ones that I've assessed have provided enough documentation for us actually to be able to see that they've been involved. So web links are good. Publications are good, or reports, and links to those reports are really good. But if you haven't got links, then you can upload things at the end to show that you actually have achieved those competencies. Also, don't think that you have to have led everything. So for a lot of things, we're recognising this is an entry level and minimum level registration. So if you're a fairly new graduate that's come out from a course that hasn't been accredited, but you've been working for 2 to 3 years, and you've been involved in things. So you might have been part of a team that's been involved in planning for a health promotion project. So you need to show that you're part of that team. So it might be 3 minutes with your name on it, and talk about some of the things that you've done as part of your role. We're not expecting everyone to have been leading projects. If you're an academic, we're not expecting everyone to have got Category 1 grants or those sorts of things. It's more looking at what sort of involvement people have had. Okay, so I've listed the core competencies, but as good health promotion professionals, you probably know those already. And as I've mentioned, all that documentation is up on the AHPA website. So I've just provided a little example of what I wrote for one knowledge-based question. And because I'm taking this from an academic's perspective, Lucy's going to talk a little bit about health promotion practitioner's perspective. I have chosen some academic examples. I should say that I've also worked as a practitioner, so I drew on some of my old experiences as well. You don't have to have everything that's really current, so I used some of my practitioner experiences as well. But specifically from an academic's point of view, I think working in a university, if we're teaching into health promotion, we should actually be able to identify all of the core competencies through our teaching. But also most of us would be doing research, and a lot of the health promotion research that we do is intervention-based research. So we're actually running a lot of projects anyway, so it's not that difficult from an academic's perspective to achieve all of the competencies. Because when this first came out and people were talking about registration, some of the people in my team were saying, oh, I haven't worked as a practitioner for quite a while. And I said, well, what about that project that you've been working on where you've actually done the planning for it, you've gone out, you've engaged with the community, you've been involved in working with stakeholders in building capacity. So all of those sorts of things are really meeting the core competencies. I will, Michelle has copies of these slides, so if anyone would like a copy of these slides afterwards, I'm happy for Michelle to distribute those. So that just gives you an idea. I've left that up on the screen for a minute. I'm not going to read through it, of the sorts of things that I've used to address that knowledge competency. So I've talked about the units that I've taught, units that I've developed, and how that actually draws on those sorts of things. Okay, and the second example I'm going to give you is enabling change. And this one talks about a project that I've been involved in. So this is a research project, but we work with schools. We go out, we develop some case studies with schools, so it's a lot of stakeholder engagement, working with the school to help the schools plan their projects. So it's very much about enabling change, about building capacity within the schools, even though it does have quite a research focus. And we draw on a range of health promotion models and health promotion frameworks. So I've used that to try and highlight that I've been involved in projects that enable change. And as I've put down the bottom, I've used the comments section for acronyms, supporting grants, publications, website links, and other relevant student supervision. Okay, so that's pretty much all I'm going to say at the moment. Another tip that I will add though, and Lucy will probably talk about some of this as well, is that it's a really good idea to prepare everything in a Word document first. So have a look at the template, write everything in the Word document, get your word count correct, all of those sorts of things, because when you come to upload it into the online system, it's easier if you can just transfer everything over from your Word document. And then once you've got your Word document as well, also another tip that I also give students is it's really helpful to have that document in case something happens when you're uploading online and the system stops and you lose everything. So prepare everything in your workload prepare everything in a Word document, have everything ready for upload. So check what else you need. So you need your academic transcripts, any supporting documentation. If you're a member of AHPA already, then you don't need to provide other identifying information, but if you're not a member of AHPA, then you need some other documents like passport, driver's license, etc. to identify who you are. Okay, and my final comment is don't overcomplicate things. Most people who are working in health promotion will be able to address all of these criteria. It doesn't have to be at the highest level. So remember, it's a minimum expectation. So if you've only been working for a few years, think about what sort of experiences you've had in all of these sorts of areas. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks very much, Sharon. If you could stop your video, and then we'll move over to Lucy. And I'll just skip through this. Just one moment while I get to Lucy's slide. Okay, so I'd like to now introduce Lucy Wickham, who is the Health Promotion Manager from Peninsula Health Victoria, and like Sharon is also a member of the National Accreditation Organisation Assessment Committee. So I'll hand over to you, Lucy.
Thanks, Michelle. I will endeavour not to repeat what Sharon has already told you, but there might be some small overlaps as we go along. So I do have a few different perspectives to give you. One is as somebody who's applied for and become registered. Another is as a member of the assessment committee, so the committee that assesses the applications. And a third is as an employer of health promotion practitioners, so someone who recruits health promotion practitioners. So as somebody who applied and became registered, I guess I have a few tips. For me, it felt like writing a job was sort of analogous to writing a job application for a job that you really want. So it's likely to take as long as it takes to draft something like that. And I'm sort of putting a guesstimate on it of around, say, 4 to 8 hours, depending on who you are. But yeah, like a job application for a job you really want. As Sharon said, think very carefully about the evidence you might be able to provide in deciding what examples to use in your application. And I would encourage you to sort of do a bit of collecting of evidence first before you launch into writing the application. The other thing that I did quite a bit of is thinking, well, I have this experience. I know I had this experience, but I know I haven't got any documented evidence. It was like 10 years ago. How might I get hold of evidence if somebody asked me? And just thinking that through as well. As Sharon said, it's a very good idea to keep a copy or start drafting in a Word document. I think that just gives you the security of not losing your work, especially if you've spent hours and hours drafting. I think that's just good to have that safety net. I'd encourage you to identify appropriate referees and check in with them as part of preparing. And I'd also encourage you to attach evidence where you can to your application. So just to note, there is only a 10 megabyte limit maximum on each individual application for uploads. So for all the documents that you upload to your application, the maximum is 10 megabytes. If you overstep that limit, your documents won't upload. So I would encourage you to zip files or save as smaller versions if you can, to ensure that you can upload everything that you want to upload. The other thing I'd encourage you to do is let your employer know that you're going to apply, that you're thinking of the registration, wanting to apply, and use that as an opportunity to discuss the supports that might be available to you in the workplace. I was asked also to give some hints on what maybe not to do when you're drafting your application or are going to be applying. I wouldn't be launching straight in without an understanding of the registration system. So as others have said, and I would read the documentation on the website to try and get an understanding. And in particular, there is an FAQs document on the AHPA website that is really very helpful. It has a lot of information. So please, I'd encourage you to go to that. It does take a bit of thinking and planning, so I wouldn't be launching straight into writing first up. You do need to think carefully about examples. And as Sharon said, the word limits are incredibly small. So when you're drafting in a Word document, I'd encourage you not to write an essay, because you'll spend a lot of time actually cutting those words down to the 200 per answer that's required on the online system. In terms of my role on the assessment committee, there was a few tips that the chair of the committee had provided that I'd like to sort of tell you about here. So Tia Lockwood, she's encouraged that we read the competencies and use the same language as the competency descriptions in describing the knowledge and experience that you have within the application. As Sharon said, your experience doesn't have to be the biggest or the most senior. Sharon quite rightly said that, they're entry-level competencies. And so it's really more, as she said, about the contribution than the seniority or the pinnacle of your career, if you like. In each competency, if you've only got experience that demonstrates one aspect of that competency area and not the full area, you need to use more than one example. If you don't have experience that covers the whole competency, then you need to just acknowledge that in your application response. For new graduates, unless you have experience, other experience that can demonstrate competency, the application system or the registration system requires a non-accredited relevant qualification plus 2 years of experience, or 3 in the last 5 years, or 3 years of experience in the last 5 years if you don't have a relevant qualification. So for those people who are new graduates, it's probably best to wait until you have some work experience under your belt before you apply, because that way you will be maximizing your chances of becoming eligible for registration. And just in terms of that assessment process, all the assessors from across Australia, so there's a committee and they come from all across Australia, they're all volunteers. And so you'll have to forgive us, the process does take time, and we are, the assessors are doing this work in their spare time. So it may take a little longer to process your application. It doesn't mean that it isn't important, that we aren't getting to it. It's just the nature of the way that the organisation is set up. And finally, I'd like to give some perspective on being an employer of health promotion practitioners, so somebody who recruits health promotion practitioners. So Peninsula Health, here at Peninsula Health, we have a team of 13 health promotion practitioners. So we're a government-funded, Victorian government-funded public health service. And so some of the things that I have done with the team is I've encouraged them to register. The team that we have here has a broad range of qualifications and levels of experience. And so it's for those that don't have formal qualifications, it's an opportunity to have their profession formally recognised and their wealth of experience formally recognised. For those employees, it's an opportunity to be more able to transfer employment in what is a highly competitive job market. I know here in Victoria, and I couldn't comment on the rest of Australia, we have many graduates from relevant health promotion related qualifications and a relatively small job market. And so anything that supports employment transfer, particularly when you don't have relevant qualifications, is a really important consideration. In terms of the benefits to Peninsula Health as an organisation, I think there are a number. It's ensuring a high quality health promotion workforce and having everybody registered, or encouraging registration. It reinforces Peninsula Health's credibility as a leader in health promotion. And it gives health, within the organisation, it gives health promotion a legitimacy as a recognised profession. And it's bringing it on par with other internal roles that we have here, for example, in allied health and nursing, that already have accreditation or registration requirements. We're coming on par, and it's legitimising us as a profession within the work environment. So here at Peninsula Health, we have a generic position description for all our health promotion practitioners. And as part of that generic description, we currently have a desirable criteria that references the registration system. So it says something like achieves the competencies of the IUHPE core competencies, for example, being a registered health promotion practitioner. I guess if I look at my crystal ball, I would hope in 5 years' time that the bulk of the workforce might be registered. And in that scenario, I would expect that we will move that desirable criteria and move it to essential, because we will be wanting to absolutely ensure the quality of our workforce, and having that as a mandatory requirement for any employed health promotion practitioner. I just wanted to briefly describe some of the things that we have offered here to support people with our team, the health promotion practitioners here with registration. So luckily there's myself and also the health promotion team leader, we're both registered. So we've offered to review draft applications. We've also offered to be referees on applications. Where people endeavour to complete the application and realise that they maybe have some competency gap, we've offered to support through professional development or on-the-job opportunities to fill those gaps, so that they then become eligible to become registered. And once members of the team achieve registration, we've offered support for ongoing continuous professional development needs. So the 75 hours over 3 years that Andrew mentioned, we've offered to support that. And we'll support that through our annual performance review process, but also through our monthly catch-ups, those more informal conversations as needed. In the longer term, I have some aspirations that I hope that the registration system will influence the industrial relations matters here at Peninsula Health. So currently the team are employed under a particular EBA and under a community development worker grading system. There's no grading system currently, salary grading system for health promotion practitioners, hence why we're under the community development worker one. So the EBA doesn't currently recognise health promotion as a profession. Hoping that the registration will support advocacy to have health promotion recognised in our EBA, with a dedicated salary grading reflecting the level of qualifications and competency needed to do the health promotion practitioner job. So I hope that those sort of more practical considerations assist in, for those who are thinking of applying to be registered, as well as understanding a little of in terms of the assessment committee and also an employer perspective. Thanks, Michelle. I'll hand back to you.
Thank you, Lucy. Now, I've just, that's right, I'm not on mute. Now is a chance for people to ask their questions and get some answers by typing into the dialogue box, which you'll find along with all your other controls. While we're waiting, I might start with a question, but please feel free to get going with your questions. I'm wondering, perhaps, Lucy, if you could just explain the role of referees. Are they just a backup if the assessment panel has a question, or are they, do they have an addition, are they routinely contacted?
My understanding is that they're not routinely contacted necessarily. I think we will contact where we feel that we need to, but we don't currently have the capacity to routinely contact. However, it is a mandatory requirement to provide 2 referees, so the contact details of 2 referees, and we would be coming back to you for that information if not provided in the initial application. Sharon, you might have something further to add in that space.
Sorry, I'm fiddling.
Sorry, I'll just unmute myself. Yes, no, that's my understanding as well, Lucy. And I think someone has written on one of the chat things what the qualities are desirable for the referees. I mean, really, the referees need to be able to comment on your on the points in your application. So one person may not be able to comment on everything. So it might be one referee that might be able to comment on your work experience in one area and someone else on the other area. So that's how you choose your referees. I would be choosing someone that I've worked with. So Lucy has indicated that she's a referee for people in her team. So they're the sort of people that you should be getting as your referees, people that you've worked with or previously worked with that could comment on your experience.
That's great, thank you. Andrew, I can see that there's a question about what's the process if an application is not successful. That might be one for you, please.
Sure. So initially people will be given an opportunity to amend their application to address issues that they haven't covered. So it's not like it just goes to the assessment panel and then you get a hard thanks but no thanks. Initially, people will be invited to top up their application and advised where there are some deficiencies. Then if after people have and then there's a window from the time of submitting your first, commencing your application, you have 6 months to complete that application, including resubmitting any information. Then if people aren't able to address the criteria, they'll be advised that their application wasn't successful. This has happened, but it's very infrequent at the moment.
Thanks, Andrew. There's quite a few questions coming through, so we'll keep moving. Sharon, the next one really relates to that mixture of academic and practitioner experience. And do you really need 2 years as a practitioner? You've covered a little bit of that, but would you just like to respond to that question from Liana, please?
Yeah, I saw that question came up. Liana, it probably depends on how much experience you've had as an academic. So you should have at least 2 years work experience. But I would absolutely be thinking that your academic experience would be contributing to your competencies because that's going to contribute to your knowledge, your information. If you're teaching, particularly if you're teaching students health promotion or public health, you're going to be teaching students how to plan, how to evaluate, all of those sorts of things. So you can use that and draw on that experience to address your competencies.
And I think it would be worth noting that people who've been involved with the Australian Health Promotion Association on one of the branch committees, for example, or one of the subcommittees, I mean, that certainly gives you skills in health promotion that I'm guessing are relevant in your application as well.
Yes, so I agree, Michelle.
Yeah. Now, the next one really relates to people who've graduated from a course abroad. Andrew, can you see that question from Monica there? And
the answer to any course is, if it's an accredited course, then it will, and it's accredited by the Global Accreditation Agency, then we'll be able to put that person through as a graduate of an accredited course.
Yes, and it really depends what it says, certified in public health university abroad. So that may be something that's related to IUHPE, the International Union for Health Promotion and Education, or it might be a different process, I suppose. So, Monica, that may be a question that you want to put to us more specifically to explain the sort of background. I think that's a little bit more complex than we've probably got time for here. Okay.
Michelle, I might just add that if it's only courses accredited by IUHPE that are relevant to this this program. Many courses are accredited other ways, but this is about accredited by courses by IUHPE.
Yeah, and perhaps you could just go on to answer the next one about what counts as the 75 hours for re-registration.
There are many different types of categories. We've got a guidelines document on the AHPA website, which is a CPD guidelines document. It can be from attending an accredited course or a conference, a seminar, writing for a journal. So I encourage you to look at the guidelines document, and there is a table which lists many criteria. One of the only things that you need to factor in is that no more than 33% of the total hours can be from one of the criteria. So, for example, you can't attend a 3-day conference and then say, well, I've got 40 hours, or 4-day conference, I've got 40 hours. It needs to be 1/3 as a maximum for any criteria.
Great, thank you. The next one from Meg Scollier is around universities and accrediting their courses. Sharon, that might be one that you can ask, having gone through the process.
Yes, well, we've gone through the process, and I guess your point, Meg, is are universities responsible?
Ask someone at reception to give you a hand. Yeah.
Sorry. Your point was, are universities responsible? So it's up to the university themselves to accredit, and that's through the IUPHE. So it's not through AHPA that the accreditation happens. And there's a range of paperwork, and you need to map your courses and make sure that everything's mapped according to the competencies. However, it is an individual university responsibility to do that. But I know there's quite a few universities in Australia that are getting on board and that are accrediting their course, because obviously it's an advantage to us as a university to be accredited, because that's something that we can then market. And as registration becomes more and more common, I think it'll be, I think universities certainly will be accrediting. I'm not sure if that's answered your question.
I might just add to that one, and we also presented this at numerous forums, including AHPA, to promote universities seeking to seek accreditation. We've written to universities as well, and we're getting quite a bit of interest, and including them asking us about the process for becoming accredited. One of the key messages, of course, is that it is a relationship between them and IUHPE, but AHPA is very interested in supporting them, but it's not a role of AHPA's to accredit universities.
And Michelle, I think the question is, if uni courses were accredited, the workforce would be too. Yes, so if you do, if you do an accredited course at a university on graduation, you become immediately eligible for registration. So yes, the workforce would be too, they still have to apply for registration through the system, but it would just be a case of showing evidence that you've done an accredited course. You wouldn't have to fill in an application.
Yes, that's right. Okay, thanks, Lucy. And just to answer the next one, so you would only be successful for registration if you were recently graduated, if you had either enough experience from elsewhere to meet all of the competencies that we talked about, or if the course you'd done was accredited. Lucy, how you mentioned that to be patient with the assessment process, are you able to give some kind of indication about the likely time at the moment?
I think our sort of default position is that it would to allow us 3 months. I don't know for sure, and maybe Sharon has more understanding. I don't know for sure what our performance is like at the moment, but I would say that that's a reasonable. We're doing probably slightly better than the 3 months potentially, but you know, just allowing us the 3 months, just in terms of the nature of the volunteering, etc., is kind of where it's at.
Great.
Yeah, I would think that we don't get that much time to review once we get allocated. So what happens is that they get allocated to reviewers, and you get a period of time to turn them around, which is fairly quick. And I noticed there was one person that said their application was in June. That should have gone through by now, so I'm not too sure. We can make a note of that and just follow up on that one.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sharon. And just to answer the one about do the referees need to be registered? My understanding is that they do not. Is that right, Andrew?
No, they do not.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on down, I see there are a few unis listed in the application. Oh, I think Andrew's just answered that question. Universities are interested in it and contacting us, and we're certainly encouraging everyone. We've sent information letters out to all universities, and there's a sort of growing momentum, and they will be dealing with the IUHPE about that. So the next one is, do we need to have an individual registration with AHPA, or is an organisational membership acceptable? It's an individual registration that is required. Cherie, is there a list or definition for a course in another relevant discipline? Lucy, do you want to?
Yeah, so I believe the IUHPE handbook, and Andrew, please put me right on this, but the IUHPE handbook did have a list of sort of recommended courses. I don't think this list is exhaustive. I think yeah, maybe I'll throw to Andrew to finish answering.
Your answer's right, Lucy. It's not an exhaustive list. It's a competency-based program. So, you know, there is this window until 2021. I've sort of mentioned that a few times, where people are able to participate in the registration program without a health promotion qualification. But as long as they can address the competencies, then yes, their application will be considered.
Can I just add to that too? We've had a few come up when we've been assessing, and we've looked at the qualifications, looked at the transcripts, looked at the units that have been covered, because there are some, the list in the IUPHE handbook. So, you know, the title of the course might be a little bit different, but we can usually tell by looking at the academic transcript.
We've got a lot of questions, and I'm not sure we're going to get through them all before we need to finish. We can take them on notice and certainly put the answers up on the website after we finish. but we've got a couple more minutes, so we'll just keep going until we run out of time. I don't think we've given any thought to accrediting or registering agencies or organisations in the future. This is about an individual professional registration, although I would certainly like to encourage organisations to try to be the first ones to have, you know, all of their health promotion staff registered. That sounds like a good aim to me. I don't think we'll answer individual questions about particular, you know, I've done this course. Hopefully if you read through carefully, I think you'll be able to work out which process you go through. The next question really says, if you've done a degree with an unaccredited university and then they become accredited, can it be retrospective?
No.
No.
I think the answer to that is no.
Which is a bit unfortunate. It's unfortunate for, I know, because some of our poor students that are just finished before we came accredited missed out. But yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate.
And finally, from Jess, as many practitioners move from project to project, don't necessarily get to keep a great deal of evidence when they move on. How much evidence needs to be provided? So minutes, for example. Lucy, do you have an answer to that?
I know that IUHP requires that, you know, that if somebody did an audit, that there would be evidence for 50% of the experience detailed in any one application. Now if you extrapolate that more broadly, I guess, it's just providing as much evidence as you can, I guess, up front with them, but being mindful of the 10 megabyte that upload limit at the same time, of course, because that can be a bit of a sticky one. Andrew, do you have more to add on that?
No, I think that's right. We just ask people to do their best, and if we've got any questions and we need more evidence, we'll get back to people.
And I think it's becoming a little bit easier with more recent things that we do, because some things are on the web, and, you know, web links and things are really good because they're not taking up that much space. So yeah, but it can be difficult finding things from a long time ago. I agree.
And perhaps if your referee is relevant to an area where you have worked but you don't have copies of minutes, for example, that might help.
Yes.
So I think we need to finish up now. I'm going to close off the chat, and thank you all for attending today's webinar. We are beginners with Zoom, but I think it's worked pretty well. So thank you. I'd like to thank Andrew, Sharon and Lucy for all of their contribution in presenting today's webinar. Melinda for being the backup, and everyone for joining us and participating. We're very gratified by the huge interest that we've had in this webinar, and we would certainly strongly encourage you to be applying to become registered as a health promotion practitioner. Please see our website, which will come up right now, if you have any further questions. And we will be putting a video of today's Zoom webinar up on the Health Promotion Association website. And just finally, I certainly encourage you all to join the Australian Health Promotion Association as members if you're not already a member. So thank you very much. Have a good afternoon, everybody, and we'll close off now. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye.
Thanks, Michelle.
Share and close off.